If you're living with diabetes and drinking water throughout the day, thinking you're doing everything right for your blood sugar, what if I told you there's one specific drink that could be working 3 times harder at the cellular level to protect your glucose metabolism, your insulin sensitivity, and even your long-term organ health? Water is essential, absolutely critical. But here's what most diabetics don't realize. There's a drink that doesn't just hydrate your body, it actually signals your cells to respond differently to insulin. It activates enzyme pathways that slow glucose absorption in your digestive tract. And it contains compounds that have been shown in clinical research to reduce fasting blood sugar by measurable percentages within weeks. Not because it's some miracle cure, but because of how it interacts with very specific metabolic processes that become dysfunctional in diabetes. That drink is green tea. Not supplements, not extracts, just properly brewed green tea, consumed at the right time, in the right way. And before you dismiss this as too simple or think you've heard it all before, let me show you exactly what's happening inside your body when you drink green tea as a diabetic, and why the timing, preparation, and consistency matter far more than most doctors have time to explain in a 15-minute appointment. This isn't about adding one more thing to an overwhelming routine. It's about understanding a simple metabolic tool that amplifies everything else you're already doing. Your medication works better. Your diet becomes more forgiving. Your blood sugar patterns stabilize. Because green tea doesn't work in isolation, it works by restoring communication between your cells and insulin, by reducing the inflammatory signals that worsen insulin resistance, and by protecting the organs most vulnerable to diabetes complications. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the precise physiology of why green tea is the #1 drink for diabetics, the 4 mechanisms that make it uniquely powerful, the mistakes that neutralize its benefits, the exact timing strategies that maximize glucose control. And importantly, this is not about replacing your medication or ignoring your doctor's advice. This is about understanding how a simple daily habit can create measurable improvements in hemoglobin A1C, fasting glucose, and long-term metabolic health. If this kind of evidence-based, practical guidance resonates with you, consider subscribing. I create content like this regularly to help people with diabetes protect their health through informed choices that actually make sense physiologically. Let me start by explaining what makes green tea fundamentally different from every other beverage recommended for diabetics. Why green tea is metabolically different. Most drinks for diabetics fall into 2 categories. Either they're neutral, meaning they won't spike your blood sugar, but they don't actively improve it. Or they provide temporary benefit through dilution and hydration. Green tea is in a completely different class, because it doesn't just avoid causing problems, it actively reverses metabolic dysfunction. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When you have diabetes, particularly type 2 diabetes, your cells become resistant to insulin. Insulin is the key that unlocks cells to let glucose in. But in insulin resistance, it's as if the locks are rusted. The key still exists, the insulin is there, but the door won't open efficiently. Glucose builds up in your bloodstream. Your pancreas tries to compensate by producing more insulin, and over time, this cycle creates inflammation, oxidative stress, and progressive damage to blood vessels, kidneys, eyes, and nerves. Green tea contains a group of compounds called catechins, particularly one called epigallocatechin gallate, or EGCG. These catechins do something remarkable. They improve how your cells respond to insulin at the receptor level. Think of it like this. If insulin resistance has rusted the locks on your cells, EGCG acts like a lubricant that makes the mechanism work more smoothly. Glucose enters cells more efficiently. Your blood sugar drops not because you're diluting it with fluid, but because your cells are actually using it properly. This has been demonstrated in multiple clinical studies. Diabetics who consumed green tea daily showed significant reductions in fasting blood glucose and hemoglobin A1C compared to control groups. Not massive changes overnight, but consistent, measurable improvements over 8 to 12 weeks. The kind of changes that reduce medication dosages, that lower complication risk, that make daily glucose management less volatile. But green tea doesn't stop there. The catechins also interfere with carbohydrate absorption in your digestive tract. Specifically, they inhibit enzymes called alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase, which break down starches and complex carbohydrates into simple sugars. When these enzymes are partially blocked, carbohydrates are absorbed more slowly. Your post-meal glucose spike becomes a gentle rise instead of a sharp peak. Your pancreas doesn't have to flood your system with insulin, and your blood sugar pattern throughout the day becomes more stable, more predictable. This is why green tea works differently than water. Water helps your kidneys flush out excess glucose through urine, which is valuable. But it doesn't change how your body processes glucose at the cellular or digestive level. Green tea does both. It improves insulin sensitivity at the cell receptor. It slows glucose absorption in the gut, and it provides a third benefit that's often overlooked. It reduces the chronic inflammation that makes insulin resistance worse over time. Inflammation and insulin resistance feed each other. High blood sugar creates inflammatory molecules called cytokines. Those cytokines make cells even more resistant to insulin, which raises blood sugar further. It's a vicious cycle. Green tea's antioxidants, particularly EGCG, neutralize these inflammatory signals. They reduce oxidative stress. They protect the insulin-producing beta cells in your pancreas from damage. And over time, this creates a metabolic environment where your body can regulate blood sugar more effectively on its own. This is why doctors who understand metabolic medicine recommend green tea specifically for diabetics. It's not folklore, it's not wishful thinking, it's biochemistry. The 4 mechanisms that make green tea work. Let me break this down into 4 specific physiological mechanisms so you understand exactly what's happening when you drink green tea as a diabetic. First, enhanced insulin receptor sensitivity. Your cells have insulin receptors on their surface. When insulin binds to these receptors, it triggers a cascade of signals that allows glucose transporters to move to the cell surface and bring glucose inside. In insulin resistance, this signaling pathway is blunted. EGCG from green tea activates proteins in this pathway, making the entire system more responsive. It's like turning up the volume on a signal that's been too quiet. Your cells hear insulin's message more clearly. They respond more efficiently. Blood sugar drops because glucose is actually being used for energy instead of circulating uselessly. Second, inhibition of carbohydrate digesting enzymes. When you eat bread, rice, pasta, or any starchy food, your body has to break those complex carbohydrates into glucose before they can be absorbed. This happens through enzymes in your saliva and small intestine. Green tea catechins bind to these enzymes and slow them down. Not completely, but enough to matter. What would normally cause a sharp post-meal glucose spike becomes a gradual elevation. This is the same principle behind certain diabetes medications like acarbose, which also inhibit these enzymes. But green tea provides this benefit naturally, without the gastrointestinal side effects those medications can cause. The result is steadier blood sugar after meals, less demand on your pancreas, less strain on your entire glucose regulation system. Third, reduction of hepatic glucose production. Your liver plays a massive role in blood sugar control. Even when you're not eating, your liver releases stored glucose into your bloodstream to maintain stable levels. This process is called gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. In diabetics, the liver often produces too much glucose, especially overnight, which is why fasting blood sugar tends to be elevated in the morning. Green tea catechins have been shown to reduce this excessive glucose output from the liver. They improve the liver's sensitivity to insulin signals that tell it to stop releasing glucose. This helps normalize fasting blood sugar levels, which is one of the most challenging aspects of diabetes management. When your fasting glucose improves, your overall glucose control throughout the day becomes easier to manage. Fourth, protection against oxidative stress and inflammation. Diabetes creates a state of chronic oxidative stress. High blood sugar produces reactive oxygen species, or free radicals, that damage cells, blood vessels, and organs. This oxidative damage is what leads to diabetic complications like neuropathy, retinopathy, and nephropathy. Green tea is one of the most potent sources of dietary antioxidants available. The catechins scavenge free radicals before they can cause damage. They reduce inflammatory cytokines. They protect the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels, which are particularly vulnerable in diabetes. This isn't just theoretical. Studies have shown that diabetics who consume green tea regularly have lower markers of inflammation and oxidative stress in their blood. Over time, this translates to reduced risk of complications, better kidney function, healthier blood vessels, less nerve damage. The protective effect compounds year after year, which is why consistency matters so much. Why most people don't get these benefits. Now here's the critical part. Green tea only delivers these benefits if you prepare it correctly, drink it at the right time, and avoid common mistakes that neutralize the catechins. Most people are drinking green tea wrong. They're using boiling water, which destroys the delicate EGCG compounds before you even take a sip. Or they're adding milk, which binds to the catechins and prevents absorption in your digestive tract. Or they're drinking it hours away from meals, missing the window where it can slow carbohydrate digestion. Let me give you the exact protocol that maximizes the anti-diabetic effects of green tea. First, water temperature matters enormously. Boiling water at 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius degrades EGCG. You need water between 160 and 180 degrees Fahrenheit or 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. If you don't have a thermometer, bring water to a boil and then let it sit for 3 to 4 minutes before pouring it over your tea leaves or tea bag. This preserves the catechins. Second, steeping time. Steep green tea for 2 to 3 minutes, no longer. Oversteeping releases excessive tannins that make the tea bitter and can actually reduce the bioavailability of the beneficial compounds. If your green tea tastes harsh and astringent, you've steeped it too long or used water that was too hot. Third, timing relative to meals. The greatest benefit for blood sugar control happens when you drink green tea 15 to 20 minutes before a meal, especially a meal containing carbohydrates. This gives the catechins time to reach your small intestine and inhibit the carbohydrate digesting enzymes right when you need them. Think of it as metabolic preparation. Your body is primed to handle the incoming glucose load more efficiently. Alternatively, drinking green tea with your meal also provides benefit, though slightly less than drinking it beforehand. The worst time is hours away from meals, when you miss the glucose blunting effect entirely. Fourth, avoid adding milk or cream. The proteins in dairy bind to catechins and dramatically reduce absorption. If you need to adjust the flavour, add a squeeze of lemon instead. The citric acid actually enhances catechin absorption and adds a pleasant taste. Fifth, consistency matters more than quantity. Drinking 1 or 2 cups of properly prepared green tea daily, every single day, is far more effective than drinking 5 cups sporadically. The metabolic benefits accumulate over weeks and months. This is not a quick fix. It's a long-term metabolic optimization strategy. Beyond green tea, supporting drinks and timing strategies. Green tea is the foundation, but there are other drinks that complement its effects and create an even more powerful glucose control strategy. Water remains essential. Dehydration makes blood sugar harder to control because it concentrates glucose in your bloodstream and forces your kidneys to work harder. Aim for 8 to 10 glasses of plain water daily, spread throughout the day. Think of water as the baseline. It keeps your kidneys filtering excess glucose efficiently and prevents the blood sugar elevation that comes from dehydration. Cinnamon tea is a secondary tool worth adding. Cinnamon contains compounds that improve insulin sensitivity through different pathways than green tea. When brewed as a tea, preferably using Ceylon cinnamon, which has lower levels of coumarin, it can provide additional glucose-lowering effects. Drink cinnamon tea in the evening or between meals. 1 cup daily is sufficient. Don't overdo it. More is not better with cinnamon. Apple cider vinegar diluted in water is another evidence-backed option, particularly before high-carbohydrate meals or at bedtime. 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in 8 ounces of water, consumed 15 to 20 minutes before eating, has been shown to reduce post-meal glucose spikes. The acetic acid in vinegar slows gastric emptying, which means food moves more slowly from your stomach to your intestine. This creates a more gradual glucose absorption pattern. At bedtime, apple cider vinegar can help reduce the liver's overnight glucose production, which improves fasting blood sugar the next morning. But always dilute it. Never drink vinegar straight. It's acidic enough to damage tooth enamel and irritate your esophagus. Herbal teas like chamomile, hibiscus, and rooibos also show modest blood sugar benefits in research. Chamomile appears to reduce fasting glucose and hemoglobin A1C in some studies. Hibiscus improves insulin sensitivity and contains antioxidants that protect against diabetic complications. Rooibos contains a compound called asparlathin that has glucose-lowering properties. These teas can be rotated throughout the day for variety, but they're supplementary. Green tea remains primary. Here's a sample daily timing strategy that optimizes all of these drinks for glucose control. Morning, upon waking. 8 ounces of plain water to rehydrate after sleep, 15 to 20 minutes before breakfast. 1 cup of green tea, prepared correctly. Mid-morning. Water as needed for hydration. 15 to 20 minutes before lunch. 1 to 2 tablespoons apple cider vinegar in 8 ounces of water, or a second cup of green tea if you prefer. Afternoon. Herbal tea like chamomile or hibiscus or plain water. 15 to 20 minutes before dinner. Green tea or apple cider vinegar water. Evening, 1 to 2 hours before bed. Cinnamon tea or chamomile tea. Bedtime, small glass of water. This timing structure ensures you're supporting insulin sensitivity and glucose control at the most critical windows, before meals and overnight. It's not complicated. It doesn't require expensive supplements. It's just strategic beverage timing based on how your body processes glucose throughout the day. What this means for your diabetes management. Let me bring this back to what matters most. Your daily blood sugar control, your long-term health, your quality of life. Adding green tea and these supporting drinks into your routine is not a replacement for medication, exercise, or a healthy diet. It's a force multiplier. It makes everything else work better. Your metformin or other glucose-lowering medication becomes more effective because your cells are more insulin sensitive. Your dietary choices have less dramatic impact on blood sugar because carbohydrate absorption is slowed. Your fasting glucose improves because overnight liver glucose production is reduced. Your hemoglobin A1C trends downward over months because your average blood sugar is lower and more stable. This is precision, not restriction. You're not eliminating foods you enjoy. You're not adding hours of extra exercise you don't have time for. You're drinking beverages you would consume anyway, but strategically, at times when they amplify your body's natural glucose regulation mechanisms. The research is clear. Diabetics who consume green tea regularly have better glycemic control, lower fasting glucose, lower hemoglobin A1C, reduced markers of inflammation and oxidative stress. These are not subjective improvements, they're measurable, objective, clinically significant, and they compound over time. Every cup of properly prepared green tea consumed before a meal is a small investment in your metabolic health. Do that twice a day, every day, for 3 months, 6 months, a year. The cumulative effect is substantial. Your risk of diabetic retinopathy decreases, your kidney function stays more stable, your nerve health is better protected, your cardiovascular risk drops. This is how you take control. Not through perfection, not through extreme measures, through consistent, intelligent choices that align with how your body actually works at the cellular and metabolic level. Green tea is not magic. It's metabolic biochemistry applied practically. It's understanding that insulin sensitivity isn't fixed, that carbohydrate absorption can be modulated, that inflammation can be reduced, that your body has mechanisms to regulate blood sugar. They just need support. Green tea provides that support, consistently, affordably, simply. If you found this information valuable and want to continue learning evidence-based strategies for managing diabetes naturally, I encourage you to subscribe. I create content regularly that breaks down complex physiology into practical actions you can take today. Managing diabetes is challenging, but it becomes significantly easier when you understand what's happening inside your body and how simple interventions like properly timed green tea can create real, measurable improvements. You deserve to feel in control of your health. You deserve to understand why certain recommendations work, and you deserve to know that small, consistent habits can make a profound difference in your long-term metabolic health. Start with green tea. Prepare it correctly. Drink it before meals. Be consistent. And watch what happens to your blood sugar patterns over the next few months. your body will respond, your glucose control will improve, and you'll have one more powerful tool in your diabetes management strategy.